Hey hobby friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Bobby, and in this series I'm showing my process of building and painting my World Eater collection. Welcome to episode 3. The previous couple episodes I started painting these miniatures on the right hand side. As you can see, I only got through about maybe half of them to a fully painted standard. The other half are like a battle ready standard. And over here on the left hand side I have some other World Eater units. Here is a winged demon prince. I cannot wait to paint this guy, he is so cool. I have a few other units here. I have a Helbrute. He also has fully magnetized weapons. And his other weapons are, they're somewhere over there. Anyway, fully magnetized weapons. He is in the teal color scheme of my Sons of Horus, but I am deciding to paint him as World Eaters. I have a few other units here. I have some Terminators with Azrak the Annihilator. I have 6 Exalted 8-bound and a Mauler Fiend as well. So in this episode, I want to add a couple more units to my painting project. So I'm going to grab this here Demon Prince. And we're going to grab this Helbrute. And we're just going to add it to these guys. So we're going to start with the airbrushing stage. Here I went ahead and mixed a satin black and burnt red from Acryl to create a nice dark red. It looks black here, but it's really a dark red. And then these pieces, I started spraying just the burnt red over top, kind of giving it a zenithal kind of spray. So it's really hard to see these two colors together, but there's a little bit of a gradient. After this step, I will be adding a little bit of orange to the burnt red and just doing a little bit of a brighter color on top. And here's my little cheap Amazon airbrush, and this is how the armor's looking. Bunch of the other pieces. Not everything is completely magnetized, so I will have to go back and do that later. Probably should have done that before I started spraying. That's the red base coats down. I think it looks pretty good. Let's get started. As I mentioned, everything is magnetized. Well, it's the shoulders that are magnetized. The different gun options, I do have to go back in and magnetize those later. And then we have the hammer. The hammer and the weapon escapes me at the moment. Those will also be used with my Death Guard army, so I will keep those black and kind of keep them more of like a neutral color between the two. That way I can use the weapons for both. And I'll go ahead and start with the skin areas first. And we're going to start with the Dark Warm Flesh by Acryl mixed with some Lamian Medium. This step did take a while just because you got to make sure that that skin layer is fully opaque before going over top of it with any more layers. We don't want any of the primer color or the red showing up underneath the skin color. Might give it an interesting look, but not what I'm looking for here. Then, after the skin is fully opaque, I went in with a mixture of Guilliman flesh with a contrast medium, about a 1-to-1 mixture, and just spread this everywhere on the skin. This adds a little bit of a tint to the skin while also shading the recessed areas, and that's sort of how it's looking so far. It looks kind of cool. And then went back in with the Dark Warm Flesh just to add some highlighted areas. So here I'm highlighting the little eyeballs coming out of his armor. So on this project I did do a time log just to see how long it would take me to finish the project and how much total time it took to complete the project. So in total, it took me almost a full month just to paint this guy. And that's maybe 1 to 3 hours per night, not every single night. I just paint when I can, and yeah, in total it took me about 36.5 hours over almost a month worth of time. I don't know if that's good or bad. Again, this is just for my own information, just so that I know how long it takes me to paint something of this size. And now I'm doing another layer of the dark warm flesh highlight. Again, just kind of hitting those top raised areas while leaving the recessed areas a little bit darker. And on this step, so what I kind of did was take both of the previous steps, the dark warm flesh and the Guilliman flesh, and created the mixture on my wet palette. So I have these two mixtures here that I'll be sort of going back and forth with. I'm using a small brush here only because for me it feels like it gives me a little bit more control. This is kind of the look that I'm going for. So it gives a little bit more gradient to the skin. I got to magnetize these pieces here. So the shoulders are magnetized. These are the magnets I use for the shoulders. I'll be using them probably for the weapons as well. So again, just continuing with the highlighting step. Just adding more dark warm flesh and layering up until I'm happy. As you can see here, I just kind of go back and forth between the two mixtures. I'll go in and I'll bump up the highlights a little bit, and then if I feel like the area also needs a little bit more contrast, then I'll bring in some of the Guilliman flesh mixture and just start to like feather that gradient. It is looking very cool so far. And now with the flesh in a pretty good spot, I'll go ahead and do a mixture of dark warm gray with some coal black. And this is all for the black areas, and you'll see why I do this mixture. It just kind of gives me an even darker warm gray color. I don't want to go full black, I just want to go a very, very dark gray color. And you'll see why later on. I feel like by painting the black areas more of a dark gray color, it still kind of feels like black without actually being solid black. Next, I'll go in with the dark silver, and this will hit any of the metallic areas on the model. This includes any joints, pistons, the spine, the exhaust, as well as some trim on some of the weapons. Yeah, he's definitely looking pretty cool now. Next, we'll go in with the bright gold and do all of the trim areas. A lot of these steps you'll see in my first couple of videos as well, so I explained the reason why I use bright gold as opposed to the sort of bronzy trim that you would normally see in World Eaters. I just like how the gold pops against the red armor. Once the gold trim is done, I go ahead and get started on the base. The reason for this is because he's already in a battle ready standard at this point. He's got the 3 color minimum. I mean, he's already looking pretty cool with the gradient in the red, the few layers that we put on the skin. So let's just go ahead and get him matching the rest of the army. So as you saw, we start with a dark warm gray, throw that over the entire base, then drench the entire base with Nuln Oil, and come back in with a, I don't know what you call it, an overbrush, using warm gray. It's basically like a dry brush that is a little bit more wet than a dry brush. And then of course go ahead and black rim the base, and now he is battle ready. Let's go ahead and check him with the rest of the army. And look at that. Already fits. He's not even done yet. He looks great. Heck yeah. Let's keep going. We'll go ahead and use Agrax Earthshade on all of the gold trim areas. This just kind of gives it a more weathered look while adding some recessed shading. Then we use some Known Oil and spread that all over the metal areas. And again, this just adds some depth. Known Oil and Agrax Earthshade are just absolute staples in pretty much everything I paint. Can't imagine my life without washes. We'll also use the Known Oil over all of the black areas, and here you can see why. So the arm on the left hand side is before the wash, and then the arm on the right hand side has the wash over the black areas. Again, just kind of giving it that deeper black look without it actually being a pure black. That's sort of the point that I'm sort of going for here, is I want it to look black without actually being super black, and then that way those shadow areas are the only areas that are pure black essentially. And then to highlight the silver, I'll go ahead and do a mixture of dark silver and pure silver. I think I normally do a sort of 2-to-1 mixture with the dark silver to silver. And this is just sort of a middle color before I use silver as the last highlight. And for the spine here, it was so much easier just to do a sort of dry brush over top. That way I'm just catching those areas and not depositing too much color on those pieces. For the black areas, I go in with the dark warm gray, just a pure dark warm gray, just to add a little bit of highlight. This goes over all the black areas, including some of the armor and the hoses and some of the spiky bits. And then I'll go in with a warm gray just to do some little spot highlights. And now we'll go ahead and get started on the missiles and the missile launcher. So with the smaller missiles, I'll be using Acryl's Ivory color, and for the larger missiles, I'll just paint them a pure burnt red. And I actually like here how the burnt red out of the bottle is much brighter than the burnt red that was sprayed over the armor. Then we'll go ahead and use a burnt orange for the red highlights. I did kind of go ahead and do those here. You can see here I just kind of go over whatever would catch light. Now I did highlight the upper body before I did the highlights on the lower body, and that's really just to kind of see how things are working first. I want to see if I'm actually really liking the color or whether I want to start making changes before I continue with the rest of the model. So sometimes I'll just paint half of the model, either just like vertically half of the model, or I'll just paint like an upper half or a lower half, and just kind of see how the colors are playing with each other. Now I did take that ivory color and do the teeth of the model, as well as some of the horns and spikes protruding from the model. This hopefully just kind of feels more of a bony sort of material. And then I'll also go ahead and use the ivory here in these little canisters here, because I'm going to try to give these like more of like a greener glow here. As you can see, I'm using striking scorpion green here. And I also use it for these little droplets coming out off the front. Does it make sense? Maybe not, but I think it looks cool. And the highlighting on the skin continues. For some reason I felt like the skin needed a little bit more highlighting, so why not? More highlights. And then to highlight the green, I mixed ivory with the striking scorpion green. Just kind of give those a more of a spot highlight. And of course, gotta do the eye too. And then for these little canister things, I just kind of went down the center. So it just kind of feels like there's more like an internal glow in those things. And there he is. He's looking pretty done so far. I think there's just a few areas left to do, but man, I'm really happy with how this guy turned out. So freaking cool. And now we'll go ahead and do highlights on the trim. And here we're going to take the bright gold color that we use on the trim and mix it with a little bit of silver. Just a little bit of silver because we don't want to get too silvery, so it's about a 2 or 3 to 1 mixture, and it's just to give it a little bit of a brighter look to the bright gold without it looking, we don't want it to look silver. For the eye in the center of her chest, as well as the eyes coming off of the side of the Helbrute, I went in with, I believe it was just pure orange. I had used the Helbrute from Space Marine 2 as reference here, and the eyes were just orange, so I just went with orange. I just really didn't want to think about it too much. And then to make it feel more like an eye, went ahead and drew these little slits in the eye just to kind of make it look like the eyeballs are looking around. And then with a Reichland flesh shade, I went around the perimeter of the eyes just to kind of give the center of the eye a little bit more of a, just kind of make the center of the eye feel a little bit brighter than the surrounding area. Now, I didn't show this process, but here's where things went a little sideways. I decided to try decals because this shoulder pad was just way too plain, and so I tried using decals, but I have not used them in a very long time, and as you can see, wasn't the most perfect application. Wasn't terrible, it does sit flat, but that middle area definitely a little foggier than I was expecting. So what I decided to do here is just to go in with coal black mixed with burnt red. Obviously this mixture was way too dark, but we're going to go with it for now, and then if I want to brighten it back up later I can. And I'm literally just covering up all of that foggy area of the decal. Some of my painting obviously got on the gold, so I did go in with my trim color gold, even though the decal does actually match pretty close to the gold color that I use. But yeah, so essentially I'm just using the decal as a stencil and just tracing it. Obviously these teeth and these lines aren't the sharpest, but it does the job. Looks fine. And that is the completed Helbrute, and you can see that it is a little bit darker on that shoulder, but I really don't care. I think he looks awesome. It was such a pleasure to paint. And here he looks with the rest of my army. Look at them together, so freaking cool. And as you can see here, I did actually paint up the 5 Jackals and 5 Berserkers that I did not complete in the first couple episodes. I do still have to paint these other 3 8-bound. I'll paint them later on in the next episode. And where am I going to put this guy? Oh, I guess right there. And that's everyone together. So yeah, next episode will be the last 3 8-bound along with the Demon Prince. Thank you guys so much for joining me again today for today's video. I greatly appreciate it. If you guys did enjoy the video, please like the video for me and do subscribe to my channel if you wish to see future videos in this series. I do have a Death Guard series as well, and I do have a couple other Chaos armies that I will be making series for later on down the line. And for those of you who stayed until the end of the video, here's my little gift to you. A video of my cat Iroh sleeping in my chair while I'm editing. But yeah, thank you so much again, and I'll see you in the next one. Farewell, hobby friends.